don't believe it. Roll me in gasoline and light me a cigarette. The boys from Personal Flash Paper are back at it again. Let's take a listen, see what they've been up to. Welcome to Personal Flash Paper, an Infinity podcast with a focus on beginner topics in the game of Infinity. On this episode, Hobby Desk, and an introduction of the idea of a hobby streak, the rule of the episode, change face and alert, and the main topic, games we played, sportsmanship, keeping your cool, and then listener feedback. With your hosts, Rob, that Baker kid,
Randy,
and Ryan.
So sweet. Been a little bit since we've recorded an actual episode, but there's been a lot of Facebook interaction, especially tonight as we record.
which is fun. I do enjoy the questions that are being sent at us right now on the old Facebook page. We have a couple, which is nice.
I mean, we have a lot of questions, a couple valid ones that we'll probably answer.
That's right, Grant.
And then there's some visuals that I don't think Grant really wants us to answer.
I mean, we could get visual. Grant. You know what, Grant? I'm going to answer your question later with pictures. I'll FaceTime you, buddy.
Oh, how sweet!
How sweet it is.
Tell him a little bedtime story.
When a Jello loves a Jello mold.
Oh, gross.
Oh man, yeah. So we're back, and so what's everybody been up to in the world of Infinity? Ryan, what have you been working on your hobby desk?
Are we hobby desking it already? Well, as mentioned in our first official season 2 cast, I have a JSA commission. I actually have a model and a half left to go on that. It should be done hopefully this week.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm being taunted by the person who you're doing that for.
Currently you are?
Currently, yeah.
Figures. Yeah. No, it's actually going pretty well. Or good, or however you want to do the proper English. It's actually getting me then sidetracked on what project I want to do next. So originally, like I have said, that this year was going to be the year of the Morat. I had to switch gears, do some pano for the mission critical piece, and then I have some ideas for some more Toha that I played last year. I have a limited insertion order list.
Oh, to call that limited insertion is such an oxymoron. Oh my gosh.
It generates 10 orders, but if you include the symbiomates, has like 26 models that you put down. How effective?
That's just obscene.
It is. It's really making me laugh. I don't know how effective it would be, but I really want to give it a shot.
That's interesting.
Man. Oh, yeah. When Randy, when Ryan brought it into the office and showed it to me, he's like, "And this is limited insertion." I was like, "There's 2 pages here. There's seriously 2 pages, and there's a shit ton of models here." Oh, it is limited insertion. I see what you've done here. Oh, very nice. I like what you did here. I like what you did here.
The upsize is I would only have to add 2 more boxes to what I currently have. Granted, I would have to paint 7 more models to get it in there, but I think that's doable.
Painting 7 more models, you poor thing.
Hey, man, my time is very precious.
Yeah, I know. All of our time is precious, which is really a good segue into the idea of a hobby streak. So one of the things that I've been involved in here in Kansas City is the idea of a hobby streak, where you spend approximately 30 minutes for hobbying. And that could be cleaning models, it could be painting models, it could be assembling models, whatever. Just a dedicated 30 minutes, and then that generates one day. And then one day leads to another day, and then you build up a streak. Ryan, you don't really partake in the hobby streak, but I know that you are motivated by it.
Yeah, so I started to, and literally the idea behind it was that you would work and then you would take a picture and post it to the Facebook group that said, "Hey, look this is what I accomplished today," or "This is what I'm working on today," something like that. I started doing it, and I did it for a week or so, and then when I had to break my hobby streak because I had to take a weekend or something off, I came back but stopped taking the photos and uploading it. Simply because some of the stuff I was working on was a commission for somebody else, and I didn't want them to see it prior to them actually being delivered. But I do like it because I go through and it like helps remind me like, hey, just take 30 minutes a day. There's another podcast that Raj and Johnny Hastings do, and they talk to it about just paint a foot. Just get on there and paint a foot. And it's the same basic idea.
And Randy, there for a while, you were also hobby streaking, if I remember correctly.
I think my maximum was like 4 days. But
Hey.
yeah, again, I'm with Ryan. Like then life happens, and I'm just like, oh well. But I like it. I like seeing people's stuff. It almost motivates me to do something, and then I don't because it's me. And
Well,
I'm
and you were also kind of really busy with the whole school aspect, because you got to have the schoolings.
I do, and I hate it. I hate everything about it. The schoolings.
Yeah. So
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really one of those things that I use it just as a personal motivation, just to see people on there. Then for me, it's like, I'll sit down and I'll do a little bit, paint bases one day or clean a model or do something like that. The downside is what it's also caused me to do is pull out a bunch of models and just send them through my cleaning process. And then it's hard for me not to grab that model and assemble it.
Yeah. No, for me, it's been really motivational. I've got over 100 days now of consecutive hobby streaking. And I even took stuff to Wapaka. Had one of the local Casey guys that drove up, gave him the box of stuff that was all sharp utensils that TSA would have had me in a rather awkward position and frisking me and putting their fingers probably where places they don't really need to go.
So,
at least
normal Tuesday night.
Yeah, normal Tuesday night. But it was one of those things where keeping that hobby streak alive was something that was really motivating. And I cleaned, a bunch of Drews, and I cleaned, a bunch of Thoracoti and stuff that I'm not even going to be working on for a while. But knowing that I've got them there and they are ready to go is really motivational. So
yeah. So on that streak, Rob, so what is on your hobby desk currently?
So currently on my hobby desk is something that I'm working on for a possible Caledonian force. That's right. I'm working on a commission for someone here in the Kansas City area that is forcing me to learn how to paint tartans. And that is the plaid type stitching program that the Scots and ancient Scots would use to make their kilts, which would identify them as clans and or regions in northern Scotland. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about that. I've got 30 some odd Pictish warriors, also known as the tattooed men of Caledonia, ancient Caledonia, not the Infinity Caledonia, that is on my hobby desk right now. But I also have been working on some 3D printed terrain that a buddy of mine was kind enough to send to me. And I'm kind of keeping it on the down low because I'm hoping that this gentleman will be able to send me some samples that I can give out to you fine people that are listening to the podcast right now.
Yeah, they look pretty sexy. I've seen some pictures of them.
Yeah, and that prototype, there was some, what I would consider to be some, small little minor imperfections or things that have changed. And so I'm waiting on the next batch of prototypes to come to see if the corrections that we talked about the other night are rectified. And then I can show the picture of the prototype and we can do something on a future episode for a contest of sorts. Bring back the random.org generator.
Yep, it should be pretty cool. I mean, Rob and I have talked about some things to do 3D printed wise that we could actually use as promos here for the cast. So, we'll see how that all comes out because it could be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think, with the implementation of 3D printing and MDF lasers and all the stuff that is out there that can be used for terrain, the sky is the limit. And working with the buddy of mine that does 3D printing and talking to him, it's one of those things where I'll have an idea and he'll be like, oh yeah, we can totally do that. Look here, look here, look here. Give me some, drawings. And, next thing you know, we're talking on the phone. He's like, yeah, I worked on this thing and it's this, this, and this. I'm like, oh, wow, that was really the concept that I had. So I'm really excited to, hopefully be bringing some stuff to the peoples.
Cool. So, Randy, have you been doing any hobbying in the last month?
No.
Oh, I was going to say that. That assume that's your answer there.
No. I played 3 games in the last month.
What the
Added
what?
add an ITS event.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that a little bit later.
Just
Big to
saying
doings.
that I did play games.
And did not come in last.
I did not come in last. I did not come in last. So whoever I beat, you suck. No, I'm just kidding. Not at all. Yeah, it was actually it was quite a bit of fun. I had a good time with it.
No, that's the best thing is having fun and meeting new people. I mean, there was people that we had from Iowa and Michigan, and not even Randy as a transplant to Kansas from Michigan, but actual people that still live in Michigan, which was really impressive.
It's true. These are all true stories. You are not lying, sir.
Ask me no questions, I tell you no lies.
Uh-huh. It's true. You do not tell no.
Cool. As May is typically a pretty hectic month at our household here, and it's been more so this year with a graduation of high school and a graduation of elementary school. My next step here is also to kind of get into the cheap terrain stuff. So after our last cast, I posted up some pictures of the refinery table. It was just soup cans and PVC. So I'm going to work on actually doing some of those videos, getting that out, and trying to get that table not only uploaded to the YouTube channel, but actually completely done so it's playable here too.
Yeah, I would love to see one of your planter ideas up on the Saturation Zone, our YouTube channel, so to speak, because those planters are just so simple, so genius that it's just, you should do this. You should totally do this, Ryan. Totally.
Yep, they are on the list of things I need to get up there, and that probably is the best place to start. I should probably do those planters. Again, for those of you who didn't listen to the first one, we talked about it briefly. I've got some orange juice caps, and I've just flipped them upside down, filled them with a little bit of putty, painted them up, and put some plastic vegetation in them, and they use them for the planters in my city table.
Yeah, and the thing with the city table is because it's so barren, and the way that you've done those as overgrown planters, it adds that kind of creep factor to a deserted city in the future.
My city is not deserted. Just because nobody happens to be there except for the people fighting over it, it's not dirty and dingy.
Yeah, it's very well manicured, except for the planters city. But we can talk about that later.
Okay.
Oh, man. So how about a music break right now?
All right,
Okay.
let's take a little break and we'll come right back.
All right. So one of the things that was talked about in the last segment was we've all played games. And one of the things that keeps coming up in a lot of games is the idea of alert and change face.
It happened to me a couple times.
Yep, so we thought we'd talk about, there are two different rules. Alert and change facing are two different rules, but they interact together very well, or, alert allows a change face. So we thought we'd kind of just talk about how you'd use those two in a situation where it would come up and exactly how those rules interplay.
Yeah, and in preparing for this episode, one of the things that Ryan and I talked about was actually how to mitigate the fact that change face and line of fire are such a visual concept, how we could actually translate that to a radio show.
Yeah, so what we thought about is we're going to describe to you a scenario. We're going to refer to one side in numbers, so model like 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the other side in letters, so A, B, C, D, if need be, hoping that it will help keep it clear. So why don't we just briefly talk about change face and then what alert does, and then kind of go into our scenario. So a change face is literally when you're doing just that. When your model is facing one direction and you need to spin him around and face him a different direction. Either that's to get line of sight on somebody or to, help cover a pathway, something along those lines. Anyways, your model's just facing the wrong direction. When you are an active player and you move the model, he essentially assumed to have a 360-degree line of sight. And when you end the move, you can face him in any direction you want to. So you could send him down the table facing north and end your move 4 inches away facing south. That doesn't matter. That's all free. But once you have that model facing one direction, you have to spend another order on him or an ARO on him to change that model's facing. So in order to do a change face, you actually have to have something trigger that if it's not your active turn. So if you're in the reactive turn, an enemy model has to come in your zone of control, or a friendly model has to declare an alert as an ARO to allow you to do the change face. Now, change face works as a dice roll. So even if you're allowed to change face, you may not make the roll. And it's a physical -3. You don't get to move like you would in a dodge. You simply just get to pivot on the spot, and allows you to change your line of sight, or line of fire, as it's referred to in this game. Now, the alert part, what that does is it allows a model to declare an alert as an ARO. Now, that's going to be their ARO. So if they've got a guy walking at them with a boarding shotgun and they're 8 inches away and you declare alert, he's going to take that shot to the face. But what it's allowing you to do is all of your other models that you choose can then try to change face. So if you have an combat troop drop in on you and you need to cover those positions, that's how you can get around. You're going to sacrifice one model, hopefully, so the rest of yours can live. So that's really kind of a rough idea of what alert and change face is. So now for our scenario. All right, it is active player's turn. He's player models 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, model 1 walks in on the side of the table and has line of sight to model A, B, but not C and D. All right. Now, of models A and B, only A can see him. So what you have is model 1 has line of sight and line of fire to A and B, and only A can see him back. So A could declare as an ARO an alert. Now, if he can see that model when it first walks in the table, then he can declare that unopposed. But if it's the second order you spent on that model and he's coming around, he's got a chance he's going to take a shot from 1. By allowing him to do that, what A is going to do is allow B, C, and D to all spin around. So let's just say A is a Fusilier Angus, and B is your Father Knight, and C and D are Hospitaller Knights, right? So those 3 are tougher units, right? You have a model come in, let's just say Van Zant, because that's a great example. So he's your model 1, comes in, Fusilier Angus is like, I'm going to alert the rest of my buddies, and I'm going to take one for the team. So Fusilier Angus gets shot by Van Zant, but he alerted. And then your Father Knight and 2 Hospitaller Knight make their physical rolls, physical -3, and they can turn around. So to simplify, you're allowing models to turn their facing so that they don't get blindsided and you have somebody come in the back and just run over you.
Okay, it kind of makes sense. So basically, if so I have a couple questions with it, because this pops up for me all the time, because I always forget, like zone of control. So if I want to change my facing, you have to do an order in my zone of control, right? You can't just turn around at any time like, oh, I forgot that Van Zant can walk in on that table edge and I'm 14 inches away and I want to turn around. You can't just turn around, right?
You cannot just turn around. That is correct. You would have to be in your zone of control, and that's where the alert comes in, because if somebody can see Van Zant, even if that somebody is across the table, has no chance of actually shooting him or doing anything. Since he can see him, he could declare an alert there.
Right, and then when he alerts, that allows my other models to flip around, correct?
And that is correct. Yeah, so it allows your other models to make the change facing roll.
Right, and that's at a -3.
That is correct.
So you're close, right?
Physical -3, yes.
Okay, so basically, for anybody that plays or has had to play against, and we'll segue into this because I made a US area on the list for my ITS event, and I purposely didn't put Van Zant in because everybody thought I was going to. You have to plan accordingly. for him just walking up and on. And so if you don't know about those type of models that can walk in on sides of boards, you can use alert to kind of fix your misdeployment.
Right, and you can also leave an ARO piece like a war core, something that's not really, going to be an active turn type model, but in a reactive turn would be able to see an enemy model walk on the board to do that alert.
Yeah, I think the reason we're kind of going over on this is because, especially if you're beginning, it's going to be tendencies. You're going to move a guy forward. He's going to be facing the direction you were moving. I mean, I think that's just our nature. Most people do that. They're going to face the enemy side of the table. But then what that does, especially beginning players, it allows somebody to bring somebody in on the backside and just rumple stomp all over them because they don't have anybody facing them. So they just come in and just pick off all of the people, killing them left, right, and center.
And that was one of the things that kind of spurred this idea for this rule of the episode, is because it is kind of a more complex thing for beginners to wrap their head around. And it happened in one of the games that I was watching here in the Kansas City area. It was a Hakislam player versus a Nomads player. And the Nomad player was not aware that there was either a Bashi Bazook or Rajik or something that had AD deployment that was able to walk on the board. And they were able to walk on the board in such a place where there was a model that was outside the line of fire to the model that was walking in and was going to take some combi shots, because all of the other Nomad players' models were outside of the line of fire and could not see the model that had walked on. And so the Nomad player was asking me, well, how can I avoid this? And I was like, well, that's a really good question. And it really starts back with your deployment.
Yeah, but this alert and change phase allows you to correct some of that deployment and movement mid-game. I will be honest, I rarely use the alert.
Yeah,
Well,
I think it's...
Why do you barely use alert?
So I really love combat drop troops, so I'm typically looking out for that in some way, shape, or form, because I like them a lot. Or there are times where I know that I'm going to be, there's not a whole lot I'm going to be able to do about it if somebody does come in, because there are just going to be places on the table that they can come in and hide and get around my backside. And so I just kind of hope for the best.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense. To be perfectly honest, I really didn't know about alert, so I knew to change face, and I kept forgetting that in my games the last time that I played, which was when I could turn around as people were kind of getting around you. So it's interesting for the alert the alert key anyway.
Yeah, and a lot of times as I'm playing now, when I'm moving models, especially if I have a link team or something of that nature, and especially when I deploy, I typically set up so that I've got a lot of the different lines of fires covered so that people can't just automatically come in behind me without someone having a shot on them or being able to react to that deployment.
Yeah, because it's super important to remember that if you do have an AD trooper coming on, that they have to use their order for that. And so your ARO becomes really imperative on what it is you want to do. Do you want to take the alert and take one for the team, or do you have a manner in which to deal with that, trooper that literally just walked on and is, opening himself up for a boarding shotgun to the face? Or, has your opponent put you in a bad situation where you need to make a bad choice?
Yeah, and like I said, I don't use alert a lot. I mean, there are probably times where I should use it more than I do. So I think this is just a good kind of topic to say, hey, remember, there is this rule out here that will allow not just the target person, right? He's not the one, but anybody else could then switch and change face, so that if you do get somebody in the backfield, this one person can, sacrifice themselves to allow the rest of your people to turn and take care of this invader.
Yeah, because, there is a possibility that you miss with the boarding shotgun to the face of that, AD trooper. And if you didn't do the alert, then everybody's still facing the same way. So it becomes that dice roll of, how important is that guy in your backfield? Chances are he's going to be pretty damn important.
Yeah, especially if you have, cheap 10-point Fusilier lieutenants or something like that you're just hiding in the back. Maybe there's not a building for you to put them in. Well, you kind of open yourself to somebody sneaking around there and capping your lieutenant and then putting you in loss of lieutenant for the next turn, which, as we talked about before, is not game ending, but is definitely game changing.
Yeah, it's a new puzzle for you to try to figure out on the fly. And as a beginner, you may not be able to handle that type of game change on the fly. It may be something that is just so jarring that it could put you on tilt or, take you out of your game and out of the fun and experience that you're having.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of times where these two rules could probably come in handy, but people just don't really think about them very often, especially new players. And I would hate to see somebody come into it, have all their people facing, downfield, waiting for the, bad guy to come up on them, and they have one guy walks into the backfield and murders everybody you have, and you literally just sat there and took them. Because there are some rules that will help you recover from that or compensate for that.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to Edwin Perez from Panama in our game at Mission Critical. Is he was moving his link team up, and it was one of those things where the first turn went no Van Zant, second turn went, and then he had moved his link team up, and Van Zant walked on the board and had him in a crossfire. And, as soon as I put Van Zant down, he was like, oh yeah, I should have been looking for him. It's like, yeah.
Van Zant is a thing, and I can't wait for us to do an episode just off of so start hitting these sectorials, because that is just, after this weekend, the Van Zant effect is, God, it's epic.
Yeah, there are a few models that I do think that what makes Infinity interesting. There are a few models they're not, I'm going to say broken, but they're not broken. They're just so powerful in what they use that if you're not prepared for them, they just roll over you. So, if I go against somebody, I played a US ARF guy at a Mission Critical, and I set up for Van Zant. And Van Zant never showed up, but I was prepared for him, and I wasn't going to let him walk around in my backfield and kill all my stuff.
So should we move on to our games that we've played and the topic of the episode?
Yeah, we can do a nice little musical interlude.
Let's do it. Let's break for that interlude. That sexy music.
Sexy music.
And remember, Rob, not 5 minutes of sexy music.
Yes,
I learned my lesson. Thank you for everyone that reached out and said those musical interludes are way too long.
I mean, we got death threats, Rob. Death threats.
Well, you and Ryan live in the city. Me, on the other hand, I live out in a compound. They're going to have to come find me.
I have directions to Rob's house. If anybody's interested, just IM me. I'll be sure.
I will give you $5 if you want them.
All right, so let's take a break for some tunes.
Okay, so in the last segment, one of the things that was talked about, if you were put in loss of lieutenant or something wasn't going quite your way, that you may not be able to quite recover. And so one of the aspects of this show is going to be sportsmanship and keeping your cool while you play the games. And so, Randy, you kind of made mention of bringing Van Zant on some people's table's edge at the last event. So did anybody get upset, or was anybody not expecting Van Zant when you were playing US Ariadne?
No, actually it was kind of the opposite, but my old age is mellowing me out to things that I just, that's why I don't do ITS that much. I don't prefer it, because I feel like a competitive environment brings out not always the best in people. But I played, God, what was my first game? I can't remember. There's a person from Iowa, It was Paul's friend. He came in. I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. And if you're
Doran.
listening, yes. And if you're listening, I'm sorry I couldn't remember. My fault. He was playing. I don't even remember. It was like 2 weeks ago, which is might as well been 5 years ago. But he had a link team, and he was moving it around. And this is the cool thing about Infinity, and it was really great when I sat down for pretty much everybody I played. Everybody wanted to know what you thought of terrain and how you judged fire lanes. So we started moving, and he's like, "Oh crap, we haven't talked about this." Well, in our group, we consider this, and it was a lot of compromising. And I really don't. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I don't care. It is what it is. So to be like, well, however you want to play it, I really don't. It's fine. And we came to an agreement, and he was watching things, and it was when intention came into play, like what are you intending to do as opposed to what you actually did. And he came around the building, and he went too far, and because I don't consider this chess where you took your finger off the model. That it is where it is, ha ha ha. And he was like, I'm gonna do this, and he's like, he moved, and he was like arrows, and I'm like, well, here. He's like, oh, I didn't see that guy and that guy. I'm like, okay, well, take it back. He's like, I can take it back? Yeah, take it back. Dude, it's not that serious. Take it back. I mean, like, what are you trying to, and so then we had the conversation of, what are you trying to do here? Like, what are you attempting to do? Tell me what you're trying to do, and I will help you do that. If it's possible, I'll help you do it. And I get that it's some big events, and I get that if you're playing for a lot of money, or I don't really know, the people might be like, no, you did it, so you're stuck there. But we had like a pretty lengthy conversation about it, about what do you want to get done here, and then I'll help you through it. And you know, I I get everybody has laser pointers and all this other stuff, but really I can save us 8 minutes, 5 minutes if you tell me what you're trying to do, and then we go eye level. Yeah, it's close enough. I mean, to me that's okay. And I feel like doing that just kind of makes you and your opponent, you're having a conversation, because we had this conversation too, Rob, at one of the breaks, is that Infinity is very mentally exhausting. Like, I don't feel like you can. I feel like I can't drink a bunch of beer and play Infinity and be good at it. Constantly focused in on what you're doing, and I feel like sometimes you don't get to interact with your opponent that much. But I think these are the conversations that at least get you and your opponent talking and bullshitting and rolling dice and maybe having fun. Is if you just talk what you're doing, just talk it through. Like, I'm doing this, I'm gonna do this. Oh, okay, cool. Nobody gets gotcha'd. And I think when people get gotcha'd is when people get really upset. Like, really, like, you didn't tell me you could do that. I don't remember you saying that. Well, it's on the sheet in front of you, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think that for me, you're absolutely 100% correct in what is your intent. And there's a lot of times that, especially with newer players, you forget it's the heat of the moment that, when you're moving north to south, that your guy has 360-degree and he can see everything. But when you pull your hand off of him, to use your chess analogy, when you pull your finger off of him, he's stuck, and his now line of sight, line of fire, his 180-degree arc that he can see is what he can see. And that puts your opponent into a mindset of, okay, how can I use that to my advantage? And it's not that your opponent is trying to, quote unquote, get you. It's your opponent is now trying to exploit something that they see as trying to solve their part of the puzzle of this game.
Sure, and I get that, and I totally do. And I mean, at some point, you're not going to ask your opponent, like, "Are you sure you want to leave your model like that? Because this could happen." But I think having the conversation of, if you're moving your model forward, and if you just tell your opponent, "Hey, I'm trying to do this. I want to move my model to this point. Do you have any AROs that can see me?" Because I was playing almost a 20 order list, and that's a lot of orders in Infinity. And so asking me what I can see as well, I think that's a reasonable ask. And I know some people are like, I'd never do that, or some people are like, yeah, it seems, I mean, why wouldn't you? But that's how I play the game, and not everybody plays that way. And getting into your sports analogy, I think everybody has a definition of what makes good sports, right? And we talked about this as well. I think we've all talked about this. Some people are like, I want to play a super clean game. That's what sports is to me. Okay, well, that is why I don't play ITS. Clean game guy, no talking guy. That's why I don't show up to your ITS events, and I'll never come, and I'll never promote it, and I'll just like it is what it is. Because you're the ultra competitive guy that I'm not wasting a weekend on. I don't have a lot of weekends that are free, and I'm not spending a weekend where I feel like I have to be mentally locked in for 9 hours on a Saturday and 9 hours on a Sunday. That's just, oh my God, it's just way too much. So for a sports thing, I think that everybody has their list of what they consider to be sportsy, and then there's the guy that at the event flips a table, starts cussing people out, and you're like, okay, I might not be the best sport, but I know that right there is, crossing the line.
Yeah, I think we've got a couple things here, right? So one is playing a game to entertain. The other would be playing a game to win only. Like, so if your sole purpose is to win, there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're in a tournament setting, especially if you get into the final games and you are at the top table, then yeah, you're probably going to have to be a little more picky about the rules, simply because the pressure's a little higher, right? It's typically not the way I try to play. I typically want to, again, this is a game, I'm using this for my relaxation. So I am normally playing a far more casual game, which is why I don't spend a lot of the time at the top tables. Because there are times, well, like, you're playing somebody and they make a mistake and you're like, okay, you sure you want to do that? And then they're like, oh, whoops, sorry, I didn't spin this guy right. Or, whatever, something like that. I'm more apt because I really want to end that game with win or lose. I had fun and my opponent had fun.
Yeah, and I think, to your point of do you want to do that? I have seen or been a part of games where I am going first and I'm desperately trying to drop the subtle hint. Hey, do you want to burn a command token to strip 2 orders? And it's one of those things where I'm like, we got to get going here, man. So I'm going to start rolling. And then halfway through my first turn, the person's like, oh, I totally should have, burned a command token.
I mean, yeah. I totally get that. I think it's how you play a game. I think you have to feel out your opponent. The problem with Infinity is you're going. It is very much a thinking person's game, which is fine. I mean, it really is fine. And I agree with you, Rob. Like, we're at this part of the game. Do you want to do anything? Asking the question, you got a time limit to decide. Because I ran into that a couple of times because I was playing so many orders, and I think it was my first game where I don't know if at the beginning they thought it or if at all they thought it, but would I stall out the game? Like, because I could have. I mean, I really, with that many orders, I could say I'm thinking forever, right? And you see multiple threads with people with, well, if you're gonna play that many orders, you better know what you're doing. God, anybody listens to this podcast knows I have no idea what I'm doing half the time. But we talked about it in turns. And I think a lot of sports related things would alleviate themselves if you just talk to your opponent. Like, I don't really like that you're doing this. Could you and it also is about tone and inflection. Could you please do this? Not, are you going to do it or what? I mean, if you just take the right tone with somebody and treat them like a human being, everything's usually fine. I mean, no, not many people, if you're playing to win a game, like to lose. I mean, I don't like to lose. That's why I go in expecting to lose so that I don't disappoint myself. But I think the communication sometimes, and I didn't have any of those games at the ITS, which was, really good. But I also knew I was going to an ITS event with people that might be expecting to win. So I tried to play a little bit. I was very locked in on playing super clean, and I don't know how clean I actually played, but it got so exhausting at the end of it.
Yeah, one of the things that I have just gotten into the habit of doing is as I move on my active turn and I finish my first or declare my first short scale, I'll actually go, okay, I think that model, and that model have an arrow that I can see. So I'm pointing out stuff, so they may even forget that they have a model over there. Now, there'll be times that I will forget to have a model somewhere too.
Sure.
But I will look and be like, okay, so what are you gonna do here, here, and here? Because I also find out that helps speed up the game too. And I'm giving somebody the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, hey, I'm pointing these things out to you. This is because we're just playing a game. We're playing a game together. We're not against each other. We're both playing this game. And so I will kind of think of those things. Now, on the command token, stripping 2 orders, yeah, there's been multiple times that I've done that too, where I'm just, oh, are you gonna do something? You're not gonna do something here? If it's in a tournament, a lot of times I will just kind of go with it. If we are just playing a game, I'm like, you're gonna strip my orders, or if I know the person is new, I'll be like, are you sure you don't want to spend a command token? And I'm like, oh, yep, sorry.
Yeah. Well, because to me, the stripping of the command token thing, that's your prerogative anyway. I don't know how you're going to rush past it. Like, I think if I were in a game and I was just deployed and somebody started moving their stuff and I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. Did we forget something here? I mean, don't like. I know that there's a finite amount of time, but that's the thing right there that I'm just gonna be like, oh my gosh, not this guy. Please, not this guy. That's gonna try to rush me past my stuff. Don't do
Well,
like I don't.
to my point of with the command token aspect, I don't want to presume that they need to strip those 2 orders. They may need all 4 of their command tokens to run combined orders, or do something with those command tokens. They may be playing Pano and have a crappy whip, and because of that crappy whip, they know that okay, this one guy has a cube. I'm going to be able to doctor him, but because my crappy whip, I'm going to need 4 chances to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's totally true, but I don't understand why in a game where you have an opponent and there's somebody to talk to, why people don't just want to talk to your opponent. Just talk to them.
No, that's a
I,
good point. I mean,
I,
because this is a very social interaction. And,
I,
it's one of those things where, to your point, Randy, of treating someone like a human and communicating with them, that is the essence of playing a game. And that is the essence of sportsmanship. That golden rule that we all learned in kindergarten, not the one that, he who has the gold makes the rules. The one to others is you'd want to, have done to you.
Well, I think we kind of glossed over it, but I think Randy's point about your inflection and your tone speaks volumes, right? And I think that's something that people need to think about. I mean, how you present your question or your statement is drastically different depending on where you put the emphasis.
I mean that it's a way to set somebody off, right? I mean, if you're trying to tilt somebody, I mean, go ahead. I mean, do it, right? The thing with Infinity that I would love to see eventually at some point in time is 2 events going side by side, or an ITS event going where it was bracketed to your people that are just here for the giggles, or kind of down over here and they're not going to win anything, then whatever. And the people that are really trying for that, move them up to this side of the room, and that way they can have the fun that they're looking for. And the people that are here to drink beer or not drink beer and just kind of play the game just to play the game, they're over there, but they know they're not winning any. You're not winning any prizes. Club all the baby seals you want. You're not winning anything. If you want to win, you got to go play over with those guys. Those guys are the ones that are, know what they're doing, and let the people that are, because there were a couple people that asked me about, do you want to do this for the ITS event? I really didn't care. This was my one Saturday to play Infinity, and I might not get to play again for a month. I just want to play the game. So, however it makes you happy to play, I'm more than content and just making sure that you're having the best time for everything else, and I just want to roll dice, and that's my fun. Your fun might be beating the Jesus out of me. That's cool too right now. So I think if you know what your opponent's looking for, you'll have a lot better sport scores. Because putting me up against super serious guy at an event is it's not going to end well for either one of us, because I'm not going to care enough, which is going to ruin his fun of I'm not taking the game seriously, and he's going to ruin my fun because he's being way too tight and way too serious for me.
Yeah, and to that point, one of the things that I did at the ITS event that Randy's talking about was I randomized the prizes. And it was one of those things where you got to pick a random prize first for winning. and that was, no different than the person that was drawing last. The only thing was that you had first crack at it. And I think that really, mellowed a lot of people out from the wanting to club baby seal type thing.
Well, I mean it's great for our local, 1 day event, and we are all good with it. But I think if you have a major tournament like a 2 day, 5, 6 game Infinity event,
True, true. Yeah, I see where
I
you're
would
going.
love to see, because
Yeah, well,
if you're gonna,
think about this though, Randy. If you have a 2-day 5-game Infinity event, right? Typically by game 2, that pool has been divided for you, right? You have the lower end of the pool who are going to be playing each other, and the upper end of the pool who are going to be playing each other. So there is some of that natural divide just because of the win-loss records.
no, I listen, I totally get that, I really do, but there are, and again, I'm probably in a small minority that thinks that it should even be split up to begin with. I'm talking purely in the tone of sports. So if you're going to have sports, there are guys that love to just they want to compete, and there are guys that don't. I would say that we might be the three of us might be in the I like to compete and I like to play and I do want to win. I don't want to win that bad. Like I just not anymore. I don't care. Um, so for me to go to an event and go over it, I'm just like like I don't want to travel for an event because one, I'm not trying to win. I'm going to drive hours and hours to go to an event, and there's nothing for me. And if I play 4 games against super serious guy, I just oh god, just put me out of my misery. So that's my whole point. And I don't like I'm not gonna belittle anybody for their fun. That's my fun, and I'm there for me. And nobody's responsible for your fun but you. Like I'm responsible to have my own fun, but I don't want to take away anybody else's either.
Yeah, so I think, and Rob and I kind of briefly discussed this in the extra burst thing we did, is that, that's kind of where we see the difference between an ITS competitive event and the narrative event. So a narrative event, although you're still playing those games to win, you're really just trying to add to a story, and you're just trying to make something, you know, um, interesting happen, right? So I think that type of event is definitely geared towards those people who are just like, hey, I've got a Saturday free and I'm going to roll some dice and drink some beers with some people. And, you know, it's just going to be a good time where you're going to have the other events where people is like, I'm going to come and I'm bringing the hardest of the hardest and I'm going to try to just beat you senseless. I think both of those have some appeal to different people. I do like doing ITS events, but a lot of the times that I like doing it is because I know that I'm going to go and I'm going to play 3 games, win, lose, or draw. And sure, if I get, beat to all high heaven, it's not going to be as fun, but I'm still playing some games and I'm going to look to see what I can learn out of those games or what I can get out of those games. Now, if my opponent is a complete douche, then that's going to really kind of ruin that anyways.
Right, and I think we can agree, like we've been going on and on, and I think it's the same. We're gonna make the same points, but I think we can all agree that bad sportsmanship, whether or not you're having fun, if your opponent is trying to have a serious game, you can acquiesce to that. But I think we all can agree that cussing your opponent out or swearing, and I've seen guys punch walls at tournaments before, not at an affinity event, but I've seen guys flip chairs and tables and at tournaments. I think that would be where you kind of draw the line of, okay, you might have gone a little too far there, bub.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to a larger volume of the actual community that plays Infinity because, there have been times where I can tell that my opponent is going on tilt or is not enjoying the game because dice were against him and dice were for me. And it's just one of those things where that's the way the cookie crumbles. And so it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. It's a bitter pill to swallow in so much that that's not how that should have gone, but it's how it did go. How do I deal with that?
Well, we're playing a dice game. You're always going to have those games that have that. But let's kind of. I think we've probably covered a lot of the sportsmanship. So why don't
Yeah.
Randy? Why don't you talk about your games at the ITS event? Talk about what you got out of them besides just the fact that you played 3 games.
Well, I played 3 games, and so I wish we had recorded it. But Rob and I, and you were online, and we were chatting. It took me forever to make a list, and I my Steel Phalanx is not competitive for ITS. It's just not made for it. And what was the first mission that we played, Rob? What was the stupid the hostage pickup mission?
Rescue.
Rescue. We
I
missed
love
rescue.
the what
Right.
was the stupid hostage pickup mission?
Yeah. What was that stupid? So I'm not going to cover the whole game, but so Rob and I make this list, and I'm like, Rob, you have these models, right? And so I made this list specifically
I
for
failed.
rescue, and I show up, and Rob's putting out the models, and everybody's like, "Oh, what's that?" And I'm like, "That's my stuff, yeah." And I looked at Rob, and he's like, "Oh, it's rescue." I'm like, "Okay, Rob, well, this is the wrong list. You know, I'm using the rescue list. I had one list that was designed for rescue. I built it for rescue. We spent 45 minutes going over it, and Rob forgot models for it. Which I mean,
Yeah,
I was
I
borrowing the
forgot.
army, so really I'm the douchebag. Like I'm the guy borrowing the army, so it's whatever. So the first game rescue, I didn't have models to really cover it, and like I said, my opponent was really cool about things, and I personally think one day ITS local events should be used as teaching games. Like, if you make a mistake, like, well, let's how about we take you backseat? Like, we'll just rewind a little bit, and that way you can fix it. And he was definitely a better player and a more competitive guy. So I'm more concerned about him getting better. So there was a couple times where I was like, "Well, do you want to take that back and redo it?" And he elected not to most of the time. He was like, "No, because if I would have done this, there's learning bank stuff." And he ended up beating me whatever the score was. He got one guy. I thought I was super clever with something, and then he's playing Eugene, I think. Was that what he's playing? I don't remember. But he had a guy come out of my side of the board, like right by my deployment zone, and camo and hidden deployment, and wrecked my day on the last turn. And I tried to have my airborne ranger save it, and um, my medics, they killed a lot of my own
Medical
stuff.
school valedictorian right there.
Yeah, definitely EMS. And then my second game, I can't even remember. I should have wrote all this down. Um, I played. Oh, I don't remember his name either. Which, I mean, this is what happens if you play me in a tournament. I won't remember your name, and I won't remember what army you played. But he was playing like a 10 order list, and I was like, oh, this is gonna end badly for you. And it ended badly for him. He was new as well, and he didn't realize what my stuff did totally, I think. And so he deployed like in a corner. And when he did that, all of my infiltration stuff just kind of walked onto the board on the other side. And we played the mission where you had to get into zones. And again, if I were a good player and cared about things, I would have paid attention to where my guys were at, in regards to the board. So I barely won, but I almost tabled him, I think. Um, and then near the end, he was trying to see how glorious he could get his guys killed, which was hilarious. We were both cracking up because he would try to do these suicide runs and kill as much as he could before he died. But I was making a lot of my rolls, which was something that didn't happen in the third game, and I was super happy I got to play who I played in my third game because he's moving away, and I remember playing him when he first moved to the area, and now he's leaving again. So Matt, it was a lot of fun. We had a shoot off, and the thing I love about Infinity, the reason I love it narratively so much is because of how cinematic it is, at least in my mind, when things are happening. 5 shots here, one shot here, one shot here, and guys are dropping and coming back, and I think it's so freaking cool. Um, but his medic killed a bunch of his guys. My medic was killing my guys, and uh, I finally called it in the third turn because I was in retreat, and he was like, "Well, you might be able to pick up on one more point of this." And I'm like, "I don't. No, you know what? It's the 1 point isn't worth it for me, bub." Uh, and the game was going to end anyway. I was like, "It's not. Again, it's not that big of a deal. Like, we're not playing for anything crazy here, so we'll wrap it up, and that way it just lets you talk to people, and so it was a lot of fun. I learned that and I did play a mind game with him because I know him. Because Matt's such a good guy, and you both know him. He's hilarious. And if he ever goes to your events, you'll love him there too. Uh, he got my list, and I showed it to him, and he's like, how many orders do you have? I said, I think I have 18. He's like, there's only like 13 on here. I go, Van Zant, baby. And he was like, and he had deployed, and he's like, I need to redeploy. I need to change some things around. I need to face the back of the board. I can't let you just walk Van Zandt. And so he starts moving around, and of course I knew I didn't have Van Zandt, but so he was turning some stuff around, right? And it was hilarious. And after the game, he's like, "Dude, you never put Van Zandt out." I go, "I don't have Van Zandt, dude." I said, "I have 18 orders. Like Van Zandt's way too many points to pull that crap off." And he was like, "You son of a bitch." So it was pretty cool. Ryan, when I made the list, Ryan was like, "Oh, some guy did," and you wrote told me the story about how that guy had you were waiting for Van Zant and it never came. I'm like, that's brilliant. So it was fun. So I think I won one match and I lost two, and I finished. There were 8 people that showed up. I think I got seventh, sixth.
Yeah. No,
So,
I think you were the 6th or 7th out of 8. So
yeah, so
it was a
I
good
did
turnout.
finish in last.
Not
So
bad.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I had a lot of fun, and I borrowed part of Rob's army because I wanted to see how U.S. Ariadna played and see if that's what my next force was going to be. And I enjoyed some parts of it. For another time, I think the blackjack sucks, so that'll be a model I never own. So, but yeah, other than that,
It's ironic that you say that because when I first was proxying the blackjack, I had no luck with it whatsoever. And then when I got the model and got it assembled, got it painted, and have taken it to a couple different events, I'm like, this model's pretty good.
yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't fit my style, and the other thing I love about Infinity before everybody thinks I'm the negative Nancy for being like, oh, I don't like this and I don't like this. The other thing I like about Infinity is certain forces I think really do fit a style better than others. So if you have a style, then there is a faction and models that fit you in almost every Infinity faction.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so like on the blackjack piece, because you're like, this doesn't work. So you're gonna get some really cool, some really pretty models, and it's gonna be like, I'm gonna use this model, and it just doesn't work for you. And part of that is gonna be because your style, right? You want this model to do X, but it's just not really equipped to do that, right? So it kind of
Just
fails.
doesn't do X. It will do the shit out of Z.
Yeah.
You're not an X player.
Well,
you're not a Z player.
What is it? Round peg,
Square hole.
Square hole. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
And I kept trying to fit it into things, and then I was trying to use it for what I thought it was for, and I'm like, this just sucks. I don't. And people kept killing it like really fast. I'm like, it must be good. People are afraid of it, but I don't. But it wasn't. It's not what I like to do. I like to kind of move really fast, and I like to be sneaky around. And I know everybody makes fun of me because I played with Achilles a ton, but yeah, whatever.
When you're a hammer, the world looks like a nail. That is what sums it up.
Yeah, but I also think then it's sometimes like if you've got a model that everyone goes after and kills right away or targets right away, then that does allow you to play another mind game, right? You put that over on one side, they focus on it, and you just kind of wander this other dude up the middle of the field. Don't pay any attention over here. Look over there. And people will do that. It was a tactic in what I thought was funny in fantasy when we were back in the day is people would paint up their cheapest, ugliest unit. They would paint it like to the top of the line. For instance, I played Ogre Kingdoms, and the Nobbler unit, which is just the cheap trash unit, right? They would convert it, paint it up so it was the prettiest thing on the table, and then the unit that did all of the damage would be just like base 3 colors, nothing fancy, because people will try to destroy a pretty model every time.
No, you know you're actually you're absolutely right. And there were a couple people that came by, and were checking out Infinity models when they're painted up, and there's only a couple out there. You know, it looks, and the tables. You know,
Oh, they're so pretty.
we do have some pretty tables in Kansas City. And if you're ever in town visiting, we had the guy from Detroit was just visiting, and we just went to the ITS event. Just let us know you're in town. We'll get you in the group. We'll get you a game or 10 or 20. Um, they look
You can
so
drink
good,
from
and
that fire hose, that's for sure.
yeah, and we had there was a lady that walked by. They had a painting class in where we were at, and I should have attended that instead of playing the ITS. Um, and she stopped by our table and she was watching the game, and she's like, "I'm just checking out your models." I'm like, "Yeah, I haven't heard that in a while." You know, being the married guy, I said, "Just it feels good to be checked out, you know, every so often." So it felt good. It felt good to be a gangster.
Damn right, it felt good to be a gangster.
Yep. So Randy, what was your biggest, like your number one takeaway from the weekend that you played?
As far as what?
Whatever. Like, so going away, like, what maybe inspired you to do the next step of your project or the next look at your army list? What was like the thing that you left there going, okay, this is what I got to think about. This is cool. I'm pumped up for this now.
Well, I get pumped up for the thing that sucks the most for me is every model I like visually, they suck in this game. I mean, like the models I really like, they just suck. But I was kind of pumped up until Rob brought the Caledonians, and I'm staring at them now on my monitor. I was like, I'm gonna make this Ranger force work, and now I'm like, maybe I want Scots to work. I'm Scottish. My last name's Glenn. I can make Scots work. So I don't know. I'm back into muffled land. But what I was encouraged with is that I had a lot of fun not playing Steel Phalanx, so that was really good. And I learned some rules, and that's always good.
Yeah, that is
So
always good.
yeah, my opponents seem to like it when you know some rules.
Yeah. So, you know what I find, there are models, like you said, that are really cool and that they don't work. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the blackjack is maybe try to see if you can do something different with them. So if it's a model you really want to shove down somebody's throat, maybe try using it more sneaky or as an ARO piece or something like that. So just because, again, it may not be working the way you want it to, but it may still fit in to your style if you just use it a little differently. You know, it may be, let's just say, since we're on the black, let's just say the blackjack, right? Instead of deploying him out ARO ready to do something, you hide him, but you don't really do anything with him till turn 2. So he becomes a mid to late game go up because by this point your opponent's going to be down a few models or should be down a few models. His positioning is probably not going to be as great, a little more spread out. And now you're sending this big honking dude in a body armor up the field to take care of him.
Yeah, because he is heavy infantry.
No, you know I know he is, and it wasn't horrible. What it was I used him as a support fire piece. So I left him back. I actually didn't advance him a ton. I used him to clog up a lane, and it worked. It worked okay. I just like for me the points of it. I could have fit 3 other models in his place, and I feel like I could have done the same thing.
Yeah, so maybe you play with him and actually just try to shove him down somebody's throat, right? You're just
Yeah,
dumping all your models and you move him up there and just see if it works differently. And you may have more fun with the model at that point. And you're like, all right, this guy's going to go up here. He's going to cause you a lot of havoc. He's then going to die. And then I'm going to play with the rest of my guys.
Yeah, and I think you should also look at the HMG version of the blackjack because all I had was the sniper version.
no, I used him as an HMG.
Oh, did you? Fair enough.
Yeah. I used him as HMG. I like the HMG version better than I like the sniper version, at least in my head. And again, anybody that's listening to me for list building advice, you are whatever I'm saying, do the opposite. Do the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is part of it too. Is what works for you may not work for somebody else, and vice versa. Just because the style is going to be so specifically geared to how people want something to work, and the other pieces you bring. So list building is a difficult monster to tackle. I will go to bed and I have my iPad typically sitting on my chest as my wife and I are going to bed, and I will sit there and just play with the army builder, which is also causes me problems because then I'm like, well, those are really cool models. Maybe I should do that army next, or that army next, or this was the list I was going to take, but now, for instance, last night I was playing with an avatar list because I just really like that model.
Yeah, no,
Sexy.
you're absolutely right. Maybe that'll be our next burst. We'll build a list. One of us will build a list, and we will mentally talk through how we do it when we do it as a group. Because the last list I built, I actually made Rob get online and talk me through it because it was helpful. He was like, "What do you want to know, dude?" And so it was actually really great. Instead of posting a list online and saying, "Hey, what does everything of this?" Uh, that's why whenever people post that, I never respond to what I think about their list because I'm like, I don't know you, dude, and I'm dumb.
Yeah, I always will typically start when I post on those with the same thing as like, no matter what anybody else has said or will say, play the list a couple times the way
Yeah,
you
see
have
what it
built it
does.
and see what works and what doesn't work for you, and then swap those pieces out. If you play a list once and it doesn't work for you and you switch and play to another list, you could have just been having a bad game. The
Yep.
Dice.
situation could have been bad.
Dice are a
Yeah.
bad thing.
And
So,
Infinity's not some of these other cookie cutter list games where you go online and oh look at this list won this tournament and this one and this one. I'm gonna build it too and practice with it. Pick a list, play with it, and then kind of talk to your opponent about feedback, and you'll go from there. But should we move on to our listener questions?
well, I don't know. Did you play any games?
Rob?
I,
Oh, yeah,
I,
I
I've
forgot about
played
Rob.
some games at Mission Critical, and I played a couple
Oh, that's
games
right. Mission
here in
Critical.
the local area. I started to play a game with Mike, our local Hakaslam player, and it was really coming down to Rosie the Riveter and trying to unhinge part of his flank so that I could let an airborne ranger come on and do what the airborne ranger needed to do with the forward observing of the HVT. And 5 orders is what Rosie spent trying to dislodge Layla out in the open in good range with a light rocket launcher, and I could not do it. And Rosie died a horrible, horrible death.
Oh, you gotta love the dice.
Yep, the dice, they are fickle bitches.
Yep. And so Rob and I both played it at Mission Critical. We did do the extra burst on that. So if you really want to find out more details on that particular set of events, that's a good one to listen to. I actually had one game in since then. Last Saturday, I was up at our local shop who was filming a commercial and asked if I'd bring some tables and come play a game. So they have pretty tables and models up there.
So pretty.
Yeah, there was some really nice tables for other games up there too. It was really pretty neat. But I asked Rob to come hang out with me, and he said no because he had better things to do apparently.
Yeah, like pick my wife up from the airport, and before anybody says anything about Uber or anything like that, no.
Because I have already made all of those jokes. But Zach did come up and play. Zach is a local guy who paints really well. He's also got some really pretty tables. He supplied a lot of the tables for a bunch of the games that they had set up. And he's fun to play. He's good. Zach is very good, and also really fun to play with. And he wanted to play Frontline because he has not won it Frontline, although he thinks he should be able to. So we were like, all right. I took my Mission Critical list, which is a Hospital Knight, 2 Hospital Knights, HMG, then multi-rifle lieutenant, and 3 Magister Knight link team. So it's a heavy infantry pain train, and he brought a 10 order heavy infantry pain train with the mobile brigada link. He got the first turn and moved up and literally just picked me apart. It was gross. Even when I did survive his first round and I moved my HMG against his missile launcher, I could not hit, and he just blew me up. So I think I ended that game with one model, which was an order sergeant who was in TO camo for all but my last order of the game. Is the only
Ouch.
thing that I think survived. Oh yeah, no, I couldn't. I made several armor saves. Had I been playing like D&D, I would have killed everything that was around me. But unfortunately, I was not. Um, I mean, I literally was rolling 4 dice, 5 dice, and getting a, you know, 1, 2, 3, 3, and a miss, and he would roll a 4.
Oh, that sucks.
Yep, but I mean, again, that's the dice games.
Nope, you're absolutely right. That is totally the dice game.
So I mean, we had a lot of fun.
Zach,
And
Zach
that's the important thing.
is fun. Yeah, Zach is fun to play against. I do enjoy Zach. We agreed to, if we ever played, we have to do a solve all of our rules grievances with interpretive dance off.
Is it a pants off dance off?
It could be. It might be.
Yeah.
Whenever I rock out, it's always with my cock out.
Yeah. Oh, nice. It
That's
was
good because you want to find people that jam out with their clam out.
good times, good times. The funny thing about Zach's in my game is we'd be playing and then you'd look over and there's somebody standing right next to you with a video camera like on the table or pointed at you or down, or they also had a stabilizer and he literally just did a fly through of the alleyway streets, and I'm like, that's going to be really cool because it's basically like zooming down street level and you see Zach's models hiding around corners and in positions and stuff. So,
Yeah, it's a total Warcore Aerocam thing.
yeah, it'll be pretty neat. I would like to see what it looks like, even raw footage.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the thing that I think that I learned out of that game is I set up for the ARO. So I had my Magister Knight with missile launcher and my HMG Hospitaller Knight set up covering this alleyway because I wanted to force Zach to swing around and not come down that alleyway, which he did, but then he just peeked out and was able to just kind of pick me apart. And I think in that situation, what I would have been better served is actually putting those guys down on the ground, kind of hidden, and letting Zach move up, right? And then coming out and on my turn, trying to clear him out. That way, giving me the first strike, because he alpha struck, took out my 2 big pieces, and there was not a whole lot I could do. Now, the dice were not in my favor, but in hindsight, I think strategy-wise, I would have been better served that way.
Yeah, sometimes it is true that discretion is the better part of valor. So if you would have held back a little bit and tried that tactic, may have won you the game.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you set up for the AROs, it actually can be a disadvantage because you are leaving, 1 or 2 guys hanging out there who are going to be on your reactive turn not as effective. Now, there are models, for instance, Hot Lana, who is really good even in the reactive turn because she sits so far
hot.
back. She's got such a high BS and all of that stuff, so it does make her very effective. But I think in some cases, and I'm not really saying turtling up, I'm and hiding all in one corner, but spreading out and maybe forcing those models to move up the table further to get those shots, not just being able to deploy and counter deploy you and pop you off one at a time and then have free run of the table.
Yep, hindsight is always going to be 20/20, which is why we should play more games.
Yep, as soon as you win the lottery and we can all quit our jobs, be happy to play every day.
Dude, one of these days, statistically saying
What? You're going to be $2 broker every week?
Amen to that.
Funny.
All right, so does anybody have any other pieces on games that we played or things that we've picked out of those games?
I think I nailed my greatness.
That's what she said.
That's what you should have said.
Nope, I'm good.
All right.
Okay.
Should we wrap it up?
Well, are we gonna do the?
Well,
the
we need to answer some of these wonderful listener questions.
That's right, listener
Remember?
questions. I forgot.
Should we? I'm on it. I have them up. Okay.
Yeah, I was seeing the one from James Comey. I think I'm saying that name right. What should I buy after the new JSA box?
let's start at the top, and we'll go
Oh, we're
down.
starting completely at the top. And we're just running
Well,
through all
right, but
29 comments.
we're not gonna read Grant's. Grant, you left us. You get no sex, Grant.
You just get Jello nailed to the wall.
Yep, Jello nailed the wall. So Jacob Bowles asks, "Are any of you guys coming to Oklahoma Onslaught Dire State event in August? The DFW crew would love to see you guys there. I didn't know there was an event in August. Jacob, if you send us the information to our email, or I guess we could look it up, but if you send us the information at personalflashpaperinfinity@gmail.com or put it on our Facebook page or whatever, we will see. It's a possibility.
Yep, I'll get it on the radar. August events are hard for me because my wife is a school teacher, and that's when they go back. And then I have 3 kids who all go back to school in August.
Yeah.
The second one is now starting college, so it's gonna be a little difficult on weekends in August. But you never know, maybe.
Yeah, because that second one is not going to be in state, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, no, it's not. And for those of you who have kids and plan to send them to college, just start selling kidneys now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still in, so I
And
understand.
I think what Ryan is really saying is they don't have to be your kidneys. Just start selling them.
I spoke correctly. I just said selling kidneys. I didn't say yours.
So the next question is from Scott Weasel. I hope it's Weasel. If I said it wrong, I'm sorry. Are any of you going to the Nova Open? I have no idea what it is either. So
It's my understanding that the Nova Open is the Labor Day weekend, and that puts me out because that is also the same weekend as ReaperCon, which I have already committed to.
I will say this: my wife said something to me today that kind of took me aback. That she said I should start going to events again, and I was kind of like, "Oh my god!" And she actually gave me permission. So as of right now, I plan on going to one out-of-state event this year. So I will be looking at all these.
Did you ask her why she wants you out of the house for a whole weekend?
I mean, I've been married long enough to I don't ask these questions. I just do what she says.
Yep. I will say
Yep.
that any tournament that comes out Memorial Day weekend, 4th of July week, or Labor Day weekend, I'm probably always going to be out due to family commitments and the fact that I want to continue to be married.
That is important.
That is dedication.
Okay, so here's our complicated question. Actually, it really isn't. What should I buy after the new JSA box? And that's by James Convey. And I will let Rob take that one or whoever.
I'm a big fan of the Tankos. Those models, the 3D renditions that Carlos showed at Adepticon, where they've got the big funky hats. Big Trouble in Little China. It's the Thunders. That is what I would go with, just because the rule of cool.
Yeah, so you got 2 things here: a rule of cool, right, or functionality. If you're looking purely on list building functionality, then the support box, which is going to be your doctors, engineers, and PAL bots or helper bots, servants, is always a solid choice with any starting army box. So if you buy any starting army box, that support box is always going to be a good addition, add on to it. Rob speaks highly of the rule of cool. That is a very, very driving factor on me. I think the JSA box, which I actually have sitting over here, those are the models that I'm resisting putting together and cleaning, because who does not love a giant F-off samurai? Um, so I think it's actually a really solid start from there. So I think put that together, play that a little bit, and see what pieces and how they function out of there. For instance, if you really like the motorcycle, well, there's more motorcycles in that faction. If you want some more heavy hitting firepower, then your Tanko is really good. If you want to get your guys back up from being dead, then your support box is really good. But again, look through there, see what you think looks cool, or if you've played it a couple of times, where are you lacking? Are you lacking specialists? Are you lacking button pushers? Are you lacking long range firepower? Think about those types of things before buying your next box.
I go with what they say. the rule of cool is always the thing, and if not, I would play a couple games with the JSA box and see what you're missing, and then kind of go from there. So Mr. Wiggles asks if I am going up with Rob and Ryan to Bug Eater. The Magic 8 Ball is uncertain because the weekend, it is next weekend. No, not next weekend, the following weekend. And I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to. I'd like to go push your shit in, Chris. But in reality, I would get my shit pushed in, and I can't. I don't know if I can. I could live with myself if the Wiggles got me. So the wife has given me kind of permission, so I don't have that as an excuse.
Well,
But
if
I can blame Laura.
if you want Randy, I can just keep his model so he can't play at all.
Oh my god, that would be so. Or you can hand them to me and I can deliver them for you, but only after our game is scheduled to start and put them like an hour and a half behind.
Hide them throughout the event venue.
Yeah, all over the place.
It's like a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, we could charge them to get them back, like a raffle ticket or something. All right,
$5 a clue.
We could break into the vending machine and actually put one in each of the things, and he's got to put his money in to get it out.
Oh my god, like an episode of The Office, that'd be great.
Exactly.
So Rob Bent wants to know what's the largest number of yans we would take in a list. And
all
then
of them.
He followed it up with, and while you're at it, what would they be armed with, and would you take other jump troops as well?
Well, so this is a funny thing because Rob took two who actually got extra HMGs at Wapaka this year, which is really funny because their ballistic skill is not great and they have no business carrying around HMGs, but it's funny as all get out. So I have been working on a Nikari list too. The problem is I don't have enough points to put the stuff in that I want to put in. I want to put in 2 Yan-Yans, and I also want to put in the Cube Jaeger because I like that specialist. So I don't know really if there's a good answer to this. I think it would be fun or funny to play as many as you could just for the humor that the Yan-Yans bring. I do have a bit of a nemesis against a particular Yan-Yan owned by the one Tor Swanson that
Swanson.
That stupid thing caused me so many problems for an 8-point model. It was, I mean, literally, like I need to make wanted posters and put that around. Like he used it as a different model at Mission Critical, and I literally was like, I'm killing that dude. He's not a Yan-Yan anymore. I don't care. I'm killing that model. That guy has got to die. I think really 2 would probably be where I would probably use them because they're annoyances. They are not expensive, but they do take up a slot, right? I think, again, I mean, you can now take Yan-Yans in a bunch of different factions, so it's kind of hard to speak. I don't really play Hawk Islam. I have a couple Hawk Islam pieces. I've looked at that list a little bit. It's not a faction that totally appeals to me. So up until the Wapaka event where we had Yan-Yans free, I think Grant is running the same event at Gen Con this year.
Yep.
Where you get a couple Yan-Yans or have the access to Yan-Yans in your list. I had a lot of fun with them, which does make me want to take them in some of the other lists, but I don't know if you dump a bunch of points into them, just simply because they're not going to do anything but be an annoyance, and a lot of the times they're going to have to move out, and they're going to get themselves killed on their active turn, meaning that your opponent's not spending any orders on them. If your opponent was spending orders on them to kill them, it's a little different. But if they are not, then you're just giving them free AROs to kill your dudes. And then at that point, what is the point?
Yeah, and with a Yan-Yan having the weapon option of a boarding shotgun or a chain rifle, both of those, if you don't deal with them, they are going to be up in your grill in no time at all.
Yep. I mean, again, they can be troublesome, but they are going to be in irregular order. They are going to be very impetuous, so they are going to have to come in on the first part of your active turn. So you're not going to be able to position your other dudes and then roll them in. They're coming in during that impetuous turn part, so they're coming on first. Now, the upside is they do have smoke grenades on all of their options, and they are a physical 14, so they're going to be chucking some good smoke, which does make them valuable, but they're also going to be running directly at your opponent.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I initially said take all of them, is because running Ariadne and having very limited smoke options, having Yan-Yans with smoke, oh yeah. I want to drop them, throw smoke on the first part of my active turn, and, use them to the best of my ability.
Yep, I would agree with that.
That's what I agree. I agree too. I agree, 100%. What are we talking about?
Smoking
Oh,
if you
yeah,
got him.
Yeah, smoking if you got him. Smoking Yan-Yans?
Fat Yan-Yans. Smoking Yan-Yans. Not fat Yan-Yans, they're smoking Yan-Yans.
Sounds like a nice spaghetti western.
Great.
I
Now
think so.
we've got to get a bunch of tactical high-heeled combat Yan-Yan chicks.
So it looks like
Okay.
the last question is FMK, the 3 Nomad Sectorials. Randy, could you explain that one? I think you have a question or a statement out there about that.
Isn't this fuck, marry, kill thing? Isn't that what this is?
That
This
is,
Yeah.
that is. For those of you who don't know, FMK stands for Fuck, Marry, Kill. It's where you have 3 things. In this case, we are looking at the 3 Nomad Sectorials, Cricketer, Bakunin, and Tunguska, which is not out yet. And though you have to pick one of those that you would fuck, one of those you would marry, and one of those you would kill.
Okay, so to speed this up, let's see. Rob, you can take the fuck part, and Ryan, you can get to have the marry part, and I get to kill.
That's not how it works, Randy.
All right, who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll take the. Oh shit.
All right,
Oh,
so
come on, this is easy.
okay, so this is the fuck part. So I'm taking Bakunin in the fuck part.
God, yes, of course you are.
because, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, they're freaks.
Because furry, right?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, who doesn't want to dress up in? I mean, I don't personally, but I saw this movie once.
Uh huh.
So
Was it a home movie, Randy?
It was not a home movie. I'm just saying that there is toys that go into places to make a girl look like a cat.
What does the fox say, Randy? What does the fox say?
I'm not, whatever. Okay, so Mary. So we're all agreeing on that. So let's see, Mary, huh?
It's got to be Corregidor because you want the kill part to be Tunguska. Can't
But
talk.
but see, Tunguska's
No.
got all the money.
Yeah, you want to marry that shit. You gotta
Yeah, you marry the
marry the money,
Tunguska.
bro. Be a gold digger. Yeah, and then you kill the Corregidor.
Corregidor,
whatever it
yeah.
is.
Yeah,
Corregidor.
That's
yeah,
fair,
you kill
fair.
Corregidor.
Yeah, so there's the answer to all of your questions, and Stu. So there we have defiled ourselves on podcast.
And I think it's funny that we're all like, no, that's dumb. Of course you're gonna fuck Bakunin, and of
Yeah,
course you're gonna
yeah.
kill.
Yeah, Rob, you're dumb. Listen to what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He hasn't
You
thought
have
it
shown me
through.
the error of my ways. I have failed,
Perfect.
most grievously failed.
Perfect. At least you admit it. So I think is that an episode then? Are we done? Is it 2 in the book?
Yeah,
It's
I think
2
this
in
will
the
be
book.
2.
Perfect.
2.5, really.
Yeah, that's your 2.5, almost 3. And then we have and then if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, it is up and running, and Rob has his first video post up there. So Rob, you want to go over how to reach us?
Sure, we can be reached at Facebook with Personal Flash Paper, the Twitter at Flashpaper News, and email personalflashpaperinfinity@gmail.com.
Yeah, and comments are always appreciated on our iTunes account as long as they're positive. Negative ones will hunt you down, and Rob will sing.
I will
Frank
sing the
Sinatra
song of
songs
my
to you.
people.
Yeah, he will. He will do it. He'll send the mutant at you.
That's
So,
right.
well, gosh, guys, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's always a good time.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm 3 beers in. This is great on a school night.
All right. Well, I will. I guess. I'll talk to y'all guys later.
Yeah, have
All
a
right,
good one,
sounds great.
everybody. Thanks for listening.
Yep. Take care.
Oh, good lord. Those boys did it. They nailed Jello to a wall. Oh, wonder what they'll come up with next. Wonder if Ryan will get that planner video up on that YouTube. And I wonder if Baker will keep hobbying away. And Randy's gonna keep in the schoolings. And I'm so proud of that boy for schoolings and educations. Oh, so smart. All right. Well, until next time, we'll see you. And here's the computer to tell you what songs y'all just heard.
Intro/outro music. Flying Species. The Yellow Flying Cog. Music Breaks. Turbo Giant by Wankers United. The use of these human works of music is granted under the current Creative Commons license terms and agreements. From the freemusicarchive.org from the artists as listed.